We have a great Washington, D.C. We, as you probably know, we're going into Memphis and we're going into some other cities, and very soon we're going to go into Chicago. It will be safe for the World Cup. If I think it isn't safe, we'll move it into a different city. Absolutely. We'll take the world. If I think it's not, it's actually a very fair question. If I think it's not safe, we're going to move it out of that city. A little bit dangerous for the World Cup or for the Olympics, you know, where they have Olympic overthrow, right? But for the World Cup in particular, because they're playing in so many cities, we won't allow it to go to, we'll move it around a little bit.
Soccer's world governing body is sending a strong message to President Trump about the 2026 World Cup games. The vice president of FIFA reacted to the president's claim that he can move matches out of U.S. cities that he considers dangerous. FIFA's vice president said football is bigger than any country.
With all due respect to current world leaders, football is bigger than them, and football will survive their regime, their government, their slogans.
What did you make of Donald Trump's comments the other day about possibly...
Which ones?
Good answer. The ones about possibly moving games, World Cup games, out of cities that he doesn't appear to like.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you know, if I have to react every time a politician makes a statement, whether it's a president or a senator or a congressman or even in my country, quite honestly, or even in Mexico, then, you know, I wouldn't be doing my job because I'd be focusing on what these guys say.
Donald Trump has stirred controversy by declaring that if he deems a 2026 World Cup host city unsafe, he would not hesitate to move the matches elsewhere. But things are not that simple. Immediately after his statement, FIFA officials issued a strong response, reminding everyone that this is their tournament, not one run by any politician. Still, Trump's threat could prompt FIFA to reconsider its approach and place greater confidence in Canada and Mexico, the United States co-hosts for the event. With questions mounting about America's stability and safety, it's not inconceivable that FIFA might quietly shift more of the tournament's focus toward its two neighboring countries. Trump's remarks struck at the very heart of that concern, that political interference could undermine football's global spirit. Trump was not subtle. He specifically mentioned cities like Chicago, repeatedly citing crime statistics and blaming weak local leadership for making the city unsafe. He insisted that if he were still in the White House, he would order matches to be moved out of such areas. Yet when a politician attempts to impose influence over an international sporting event, the line between government power and FIFA's independence becomes dangerously blurred, something the sporting world never wants to see. The World Cup is not a political stage, and FIFA swiftly reminded Donald Trump of that just hours after his comments. When asked whether Trump actually had the authority to relocate matches, Victor Montagliani, a Canadian who serves as FIFA vice president and president of CONCACAF, gave a pointed response. He said he does not waste time reacting to politicians' remarks because football transcends all borders and power structures. Presidents may come and go, governments may change, but FIFA operates independently, unaffected by any nation's domestic political turbulence. Montagliani stressed that their focus lies not inside controversies, but in ensuring that the 16 stadiums across Canada, the United States, and Mexico are ready for the world's biggest sporting event. In truth, everything has long been set in motion. The list of host cities was confirmed years ago, and infrastructure projects in those locations are already in their final stages. That's what Donald Trump seemed to overlook when making his statement. FIFA does not allow any politician the authority to alter schedules or venues at will. The stadium selection process spans years, evaluating security, transportation, facilities, and logistical agreements with local authorities. Once the official list is announced, changing it is far from as simple as rescheduling a campaign rally. Behind every stadium lies a complex web of international contracts, sponsors, broadcasting rights, and meticulously planned global logistics. That's why Victor Montagliani's response, coming from the Canadian at the helm of FIFA's North American operations, carried far more weight than a routine rebuttal. He represents a leadership style with a global vision, one that prioritizes stability and professionalism over political theatrics. In other words, Montagliani doesn't wait for instructions from Washington. While Trump speaks like a businessman accustomed to negotiating and reallocating assets, Montagliani acts like an international coordinator, someone who understands that the World Cup is not the property of any single nation, but an event that belongs to the world. And FIFA's message is crystal clear. This tournament is run by them, not dictated by politicians. What seemed like a clear line between sports and politics has now blurred into a bigger question. How does the world truly view the United States as host of the 2026 World Cup? Because the World Cup is not just about football, it's a mirror reflecting a nation's image before the entire world. When Donald Trump talks about unsafe cities, he's not merely criticizing mayors or governors, he's implicitly asking, does America still have the confidence to open its doors to the world? From there, the story shifts. It's no longer about authority between FIFA and a politician, but about who truly inspires trust. FIFA may ignore Trump politically, but it cannot ignore the reality he's pointing to. Rising crime, deepening political polarization, and mounting security fears, all of these are real. And they expose an uncomfortable paradox. While Trump tries to project strength, his words only deepen global doubts about America's own ability to host the event. It's worth noting that when the US was awarded the majority of 2026 matches back in 2018, the context was entirely different. Trump himself had signed a letter to FIFA, pledging that all athletes, officials, and fans from around the world would be welcomed, regardless of nationality or religion. But 7 years later, that promise is being tested. The BBC recently painted a grim picture: political violence on the rise, a widening immigration crackdown, and escalating tensions between federal and local governments. In major host cities like Los Angeles, the National Guard has been deployed to maintain security. At the same time, ICE's immigration raids have driven thousands of people to protest in the streets. Instead of the image of a nation welcoming the world, what's emerging is a portrait of an anxious, inward-looking America, tense, divided, and suspicious. The BBC also noted that the US visa process has become a major obstacle for fans. Many applicants wait nearly a year just for an interview. For fans from developing countries, securing entry to attend the World Cup could take longer than the tournament itself. While Russia and Qatar both introduced fast-track visa systems for football fans, the US has maintained a lengthy, bureaucratic process, including social media background checks, a subtle message that says, "We don't entirely trust you." Combined with domestic unrest, from protests to gun violence, with nearly 500 mass shootings in the past year, the line between security and politics has grown increasingly blurred. So when Trump talks about moving matches out of dangerous cities, he isn't offering a solution. He's unintentionally amplifying global concerns about instability. Cities like Chicago, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles now face both political and security pressure, while America's international image has taken a serious hit. Ticket prices for the 2026 World Cup have already surged, some exceeding $2,000 for the opening match, prompting fans in Europe and Latin America to accuse FIFA of drifting away from the spirit of equality the tournament once stood for. When you combine soaring ticket prices, costly travel, and cumbersome visa rules, the 2026 World Cup, once envisioned as a global celebration of football, is gradually turning into an exclusive event that mirrors its host nation, wealthy, divided, and full of barriers. All of this is beginning to erode international confidence in the United States. When FIFA insists that football stands above politics, what it truly seeks to defend is not just the sport itself, but its image, that of a neutral space where fans, players, and journalists from every corner of the world can gather without fear of being drawn into chaos. But to maintain that neutrality, the host nation must provide an environment that is safe, welcoming, and trustworthy. And in today's America, that ideal is looking increasingly fragile. The deep divisions within US domestic politics mean that any decision, from security to logistics, can quickly ignite controversy. If a protest were to break out in a host city, the world's attention would instantly shift from the pitch to the political tensions in Washington. This runs completely counter to what FIFA wants, especially in what will be the largest World Cup in history, featuring 48 teams and billions of viewers worldwide. The tournament has been marketed as a symbol of unity, yet that message becomes hard to sustain when the host nation itself appears fractured. When Victor Montagliani said that football exists above all regimes, it wasn't just a good line, it was a pointed reminder. What he meant was that FIFA's loyalty lies with the game, not with any government. And if politics threaten that stability, FIFA won't argue, it will act quietly. In other words, FIFA's trust in the United States has limits. The organization will honor its commitment to host the tournament, but it will not gamble the image of the World Cup merely to accommodate a country in turmoil.